Imagine a world where reaching 100 years old becomes the norm, a future promised by headlines, science fiction, and optimistic futurists. Yet new research suggests that dream may be fading faster than we thought. For decades, life expectancy climbed steadily, fueled by medical miracles, cleaner water, better food, and safer living conditions. But that upward march has begun to stall, and the next generations may never see the average person live to a century. The reason is not war, famine, or plague, but something far more subtle. We have already solved many of the easiest problems that once cut lives short. In the early part of the last century, simply surviving childhood was a gamble. Infectious diseases swept through communities, sanitation was rudimentary, and medical care was often out of reach. A child born in that era faced real odds of not making it to adulthood. But as societies invested in public health, vaccines, sewage systems, nutrition programs, and basic health care, the chances of dying young plummeted. That single shift lifted the average lifespan dramatically, not because people suddenly lived longer in old age, but because far more made it to middle age and beyond. Now, in wealthy nations, nearly every child survives. The low-hanging fruit of longevity has been picked. What remains is far harder, extending healthy life deep into old age, slowing the biological processes of aging itself, and preventing the chronic diseases that dominate later years: heart disease, cancer, dementia, diabetes. These are not problems solved by a single vaccine or a clean water pipe. They are complex, intertwined, and deeply rooted in the biology of time. The latest global analysis, drawing on over a century of mortality data from some of the world's healthiest countries, paints a sobering picture. Generations born after the late 1930s have seen their life expectancy gains slow to a crawl. Where once each new cohort could expect to live several years longer than the last, that gap has narrowed to just a few months per generation. And despite all the talk of anti-aging breakthroughs, gene therapies, and longevity clinics, the data shows no sign of a sudden leap on the horizon. Even if adult survival rates were to improve at double their current pace, it would still not match the explosive gains of the past. This does not mean people are dying younger. On the contrary, most are still living longer than their grandparents did. But the rate of improvement, the acceleration that once made 100 seem inevitable, is gone. The curve has flattened. And that changes everything. For individuals, this shift alters the calculus of life planning. Retirement ages, saving strategies, career timelines, and even family structures were built on the assumption that each generation would live significantly longer than the one before. If that assumption no longer holds, the foundations of modern economic and social policy begin to wobble. Pensions may run dry, healthcare systems may buckle under the weight of an aging population without the offset of longer working lives, and personal dreams of a long, active retirement may need recalibration. Yet the real story is not just about numbers on a chart. It is about what longevity truly means. Living longer is only valuable if those extra years are lived well, with vitality, purpose, and connection. And here, the focus may need to shift from merely adding years to life, to adding life to years. The goal is not just to reach 100, but to reach 80 with the energy of 60, the mind of 50, and the joy of 30. This brings us back to the choices within reach of ordinary people. While scientists search for the next great breakthrough in aging, the most powerful tools for a longer, healthier life remain surprisingly simple: movement, nourishment, rest, and human connection. Daily walks, whole foods, quality sleep, and meaningful relationships do not make flashy headlines, but they form the bedrock of resilience against the slow creep of chronic disease. Stress management, emotional well-being, and a sense of purpose, often dismissed as soft or secondary, now appear central to long-term health. The modern world, however, works against these fundamentals. Sedentary jobs, processed diets, digital overload, and social fragmentation chip away at the very pillars of longevity. We have engineered convenience into every corner of life, but at the cost of the natural rhythms that once kept us strong. The result is a paradox. We live in the safest, most medically advanced era in human history, yet rates of anxiety, depression, obesity, and metabolic dysfunction are soaring. We are surviving longer, but not necessarily thriving. This is where the conversation about life expectancy must evolve. It is not enough to ask how long we will live. We must ask how well we will live, and what kind of life we are building along the way. A longer lifespan without joy, connection, or meaning may feel more like a burden than a blessing. Conversely, a slightly shorter life filled with love, curiosity, and contribution can feel rich beyond measure. The slowdown in longevity gains also forces a reckoning with inequality. While the study focuses on wealthy nations, the global picture is far more uneven. In many parts of the world, children still face high risks of early death, and life expectancy lags decades behind. Even within affluent countries, disparities persist, shaped by income, education, race, and geography. The promise of longer life has never been evenly distributed, and as gains slow, those gaps may widen further unless addressed with intention. Looking ahead, the path forward likely lies not in one grand scientific leap, but in a mosaic of small, sustained efforts. Public health must pivot from fighting acute threats to nurturing lifelong resilience. Medicine must shift from treating disease to preserving function. Communities must be designed to encourage walking, gathering, and belonging. And individuals must reclaim agency over their daily habits, not as acts of discipline, but as expressions of self-care and hope. There is still room for wonder. Biology is not destiny, and history has surprised us before. Perhaps a deeper understanding of cellular aging, inflammation, or the microbiome will unlock new possibilities. But even if such breakthroughs arrive, they will work best atop a foundation of healthy living. Technology can extend life, but it cannot replace the human need for meaning, movement, and connection. So while the dream of a century-long average lifespan may be receding, the pursuit of a good life remains firmly within reach. It is built not in laboratories alone, but in kitchens, parks, workplaces, and quiet moments of reflection. It grows from choosing joy over resentment, presence over distraction, and care over convenience. And in that sense, the future of longevity is not just written in data, it is lived, one day at a time, by all of us. Thanks for watching. If this resonated with you, hit that like button, subscribe for more deep dives into health, life, and what really matters, and drop a comment below. What's one small habit you're choosing today to live well, not just longer? Until next time, take care of your days. They're the only ones you've got.